How much is Charlie Chaplin's dead body really worth? Welcome to the Film Threat Podcast. I am Chris Gore, and I'm a big fan of indie heist films. Heist films just in general are fun, but this is one that you probably, it's a little weird. It's set in Vegas, and it's called Stealing Chaplin, and it is about exactly what the title says. It's about stealing Chaplin, stealing Charlie Chaplin's body, and then offering it for ransom, which seems like, I mean, offering something for ransom, kidnapping, that's a thing we've seen in movies before. This is a dead body. What's it really worth? Is it really worth what they're asking? I'm not sure, but let's talk to Paul Tanter, the director of Stealing Chaplin, and Simon Phillips, the lead actor. What are you guys? What are you doing? What was the deal with this movie in the sense that, like, here's what I have to ask about it. Is it based on a true story? Did something like this really happen?
It is. Unbelievably, it is actually genuinely based on a true story. So what we've done, we've taken it as a kind of jumping off point for a reimagining of the story. But it's actually true that in early 1978, two brothers dug up and stole the corpse of Charlie Chaplin, who had died a few months earlier on Christmas Day, 1977. And he was buried in Switzerland, where he lived the last few years of his life. And they dug him up and had the coffin in their house for like a couple of months, while they played a cat and mouse game with the police, and eventually they were caught. So it's one of those things. It's sort of, it's one of those things that when you hear about it, you have to kind of like double check it to make sure it's not an urban legend. There's a few of these things. And so when Simon first told me about the idea, I thought, no, that can't be true. That's too fantastical. And the idea of these bumbling brothers stealing the body of the world's greatest comedian, it just seemed a little bit too fantastical to be true. So I looked into it, and lo and behold, it was actually a true story. And we just thought this is a great inspiration for a sort of modern telling of it, where you can have two inept, bumbling, slightly lovable brothers in a city that kind of encompasses schemes and scams and wanting to get rich quick and that kind of thing. That's why we set it in Vegas, and that's how we kind of came to the contemporaneous telling of the story that we called Stealing Chaplin.
Well, it's interesting because the names have been changed, the locations changed, but the circumstances remain the same. I'm surprised though that, like, in the original, what really happened, Chaplin's body was fresh. It was not, I'm sure it was not 100% fully decomposed. Simon, first of all, you must feel great satisfaction that your telling of this true tale to Paul resulted in this movie. So he had to cast you in it.
Yes, he had no choice, to be honest. Absolutely no choice. In fact, that's always Paul's first question when I come up with an idea. Is like, do you have to be in it? And I'm like, yes, Paul. I want to play both brothers. So we'll just do it side, and then we'll do it the other way. And he was like, look, we'll give you one of the roles of the brothers, not both. But you can be in it. I was like, whew.
Tell me about it. Obviously, you shot in Vegas, which is an amazing location just for any film. But like, how did that inspire? Because it certainly changed the dynamic, right, of the true story. So how did Vegas impact?
It was one of those ones where we, as you said earlier, we only jumped off with the idea that two brothers stole Charlie Chaplin's body. Everything else is kind of, we've had a bit of artistic and creative license with it, so it's made it a bit more fun. And that's the only bit we took off there. And the story sounds so ridiculous, as Paul was saying, that it's just crying out to be made a comedy. In my mind, when we started this, I really wanted it to be a movie that Charlie Chaplin would have enjoyed watching, thinking, this is kind of bonkers. It's kind of slightly crazy. But I get it. This is, it's kind of fun. The fact that this happened to Charlie Chaplin is, the irony is not lost on anybody that something this crazy and ridiculous and farce-like would happen to him. So, I'm hoping that we just use that as a jump-off point. But I don't know, we've got a lot of love for Charlie Chaplin, a lot of hidden Easter eggs in the movie for him, sort of. So I'm hoping people spot those.
Tell me about that opening scene. I thought was just it just to introduce, you know, you and your brother, your characters, where you're in this diner dressed as priests. I kind of feel like that might have been inspired by something real, because it was so. And then you're trying to pick up the waitress, which like is just this bizarre like introduction to your characters. Tell me about that scene.
Well, we're not dressed as priests. We're dressed as chaplains. See what we did there?
Right. Yes, that's right.
These things take hours, maybe even minutes to come up with. But yeah, no, it was one of those things that we needed people to know straight away that we were con men, and straight away that we weren't very good con men. Because obviously, if you're trying to pick up a waitress, maybe don't dress as a priest would be people would think. I wouldn't even think that needs saying, Simon. But you know, sort of. But that's the sort of that's why you get these guys are kind of lovable rogues. They're con men, but they're kind of not very good at it. So there's an innocence to them, and all the bad guys, all the real bad guys in the movie are much better at what they do, which is what makes these guys, the audience are hopefully on these guys' side a little bit.
There's really good casting of some of the heavies in this film that are involved in this affair. Tell me, Paul, what went into that? Like putting together this, just you know, by the end, it's just kind of a wacky cast of characters.
Well, so the casting, we approached it a number of ways. One was we were shooting in Vegas, so we wanted to cast as many roles locally as possible because there's a sort of small but thriving film community in Vegas. So we cast a few of the roles there. People like Helen, who plays the waitress, Bianca Katz, she was cast locally, and a lot of the other people. But the three main heavies would be Ken Bressers, who's also our producer, who we've worked with before, who we love putting in anything, just because he's got such a sort of wonderful, you know, presence about him. But then the other two are Peter Woodward, who some people may know from The Patriot or Babylon 5 if you're a sci-fi fan, and we've worked with him quite a few times, and we always like to work with him. And then our main guy, who we always try to work with on every project if possible, because we just love working with him, is Al Sapienza, who people would know from a lot of American television, but mainly probably The Sopranos and House of Cards, and you know, and various other things. And yeah, they're just great character actors, all of whom are LA based, so it wasn't too far for them to come down to Vegas and, you know, do a couple of days with us. And so, yeah, we always try and cast a combination of people we've worked with before who we know are great, and new, fresh, up-and-coming talent, as we did in and around Vegas. So, yeah, there's a real mix. But, yes, it's a great sort of mix of eclectic characters. I think a story like this needs a kind of ensemble. When you're doing a bit of a slice of life of the dark underbelly of the city of sin, you need a lot of disparate characters, and it's a great ensemble in that regard.
And you really seem to be having a good time. I mean, it just came across that everyone working on this film seemed to be having a good. Simon, you in particular, I think looked like you were having fun.
Yeah, it's great when work is fun. You know, sort of a lot of filming is long hours and long days, but this was a lot of fun. But I mean, all of my stuff, you know, we got to be the funny guys. Everybody else actually played, we were talking about this the other day, everybody else played the movie straight, you know, so Paul had all the heavies be very serious and very, you know, and it's all like the two boys, myself and Doug, we're the sort of comedy center of it, but nobody else is on our level, sort of, in terms of it's not funny. It's very serious for everybody else. So it's a lot of fun to be constantly giving punchlines and having people try to react straight to us, you know, because they just don't get us, and we're sort of two fish out of water here. And the whole filming process was just fun. And Paul made it. Doug's script made that possible to begin with, but Paul let us improv a lot. And to be honest, I don't know how we made any filming day when Paul would just let us play a lot. Eventually he would have to tell us to shut up.
You mentioned that you were chaplains in the beginning, which I guess I forgot that's a little Easter egg pun. But what were some of the Paul and Simon, if you wouldn't mind revealing maybe some of the other Easter eggs? I mean, I'm a big Chaplin fan. You know, watching his films growing up, and I mean, they're just I mean, I think some of them still relevant today. I mean, The Great Dictator is a classic. But what were some of the other Easter eggs you wouldn't mind revealing for those watching this or listening to this?
So there's a big one that runs throughout it that is kind of revealed at the end. So I won't say what that is because there's one that's a bit of a twist. But there are two main ones. The one is that was put into it right at script stage, which is every single character in the movie is named after either an actor who worked with Chaplin or a silent movie star or a character from one of Chaplin's films. So every single character, every name you hear is associated with Chaplin. The other thing is we divided it sort of Pulp Fiction style into a series of chapters almost. You know, each there's a sort of series of little stories within it. And each one is bookended at the very beginning by a quote, which is a quote from Chaplin. Each one is from Chaplin's life, but it leads into what you're about to see. So it has, there's a certain, there's a deliberate reference from it. So there's those as well. But there is also a very big kind of Easter egg reveal at the end that I won't say what it is because that kind of gives away a bit of a twist.
And I don't think you need to be a Charlie Chaplin fan to get this movie. I mean, it's a heist film. It's a fun heist film with likable characters, but it definitely adds extra layers if you know Chaplin's work. Obviously, you both are fans. So what has been the reaction from? I don't even know if there's like a Charlie Chaplin fan community. Is that an active fan community? Like Star Trek fans are very loud. Star Trek and Star Wars fans are very, very vocal. I don't know. Are Charlie Chaplin fans? Are they loud and vocal? And I know that he's been criticized for things in his life. You know, I don't want to derail into that. But like, how have Chaplin fans seen the film and how they reacted?
I think when we approached it, we had this thing of like that we were going to be very respectful to Chaplin, actually. So. Although the story seems to be exploiting his body and stuff like that, sort of really anytime we mention Chaplin, we're always kind of in awe at him, sort of, and a lot of the film is kind of an homage to him anyway. It's, as I said, the idea from me was that it would be the type of movie that Chaplin would want to see. There's bits of like physical comedy in there. We've tried to, we can't go as extreme as a Chaplin movie, but there are certainly bits of, carrying the coffin and Doug whacking people over the head with a sort of comedic sound effect. There's almost very much that sort of era of sort of fast-like comedy. So anybody that's seen it that is a Chaplin fan to begin with, I think they realized that we didn't say anything disparaging about him, and actually a lot of what we're doing is inspired by him. So it's been greeted. I mean, we're obviously no way as good as a Charlie Chaplin movie, but you know what? It wasn't a bad sort of fan movie for anybody that was in that area.
And we did also once we'd completed it as a sort of courtesy, we did approach the Chaplin Foundation, who run the affairs of the Chaplin family, and showed it to them just to say, look, we've done, this is what we've done, and they were perfectly fine with it, and we didn't think they would have any issues, but they said, yeah, well, we're not going to sue you, which is about the kindest thing they could say.
Yeah, well,
if someone says that they're not going to sue you in Hollywood, that just means you're now best friends.
Oh my God, what a weird business. But I mean, it just reminding me of if they're not going to sue you, you're best friends. Congratulations on the film. It's now out and available on all the video on demand platforms. It's a lot of fun. Paul and Simon, thanks for chatting with me on the Film Threat podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you.